visit us to talk about veterans, and we discussed the North Carolina Veterans Park project, and we asked for our older veterans to be acknowledged and to submit their names to her. We did this because we were going to participate in the Veterans Park project, which will be in Fayetteville, thank you, which is scheduled to open July 4th of this year. And the park will honor our veterans, their families, the sacrifices that they make, and it's going to be a wonderful thing. There's a lot of artwork incorporated into the park, and we participated in the artwork by having our oldest veteran that we could identify having his hand cast. An artist, Marcella Casals, came Saturday morning to Wayne County from Fayetteville. She is a sculptor, and she helped us get our veterans' hands cast. So this is a picture of Marcellus. And this is our oldest veteran that we were able to identify. His name is Elaster Rayner. He was born in the Rayners Mill area in Grantham on April 18, 1917. He is the son of the late Ella Rose and Early Rayner. He served 3 years, 4 months, and 8 days in the United States Army as a cook in the officers' mess hall. He served in England, Scotland, Belgium, and the South Pacific, and he was also stationed at various bases in the United States. His Army highlights included serving under General MacArthur and serving during the German invasion. After service, he worked in a factory for 29 years in New Jersey. And Mr. Rayner and his family were very proud that they had had a member of their family to serve in the military in every war since World War I to the present. This is a photograph of Mr. Rayner, his nephew, Booker T. Rayner, and Mr. Rayner's wife and their grandson, Ann Marcella. And Mr. Rayner had his hand cast. Marcella forgot her equipment in Fayetteville, so we had to improvise, and I want to thank our facility services staff for helping come up with a Pepsi bottle to help us out. Mr. Rayner put his right hand in the Pepsi bottle to make the impression. They used the right hand because this is the hand that he took the oath of office with when he was sworn into the Army. And this is a picture of him getting his hand put in the plaster to get it cast. I also, at the end of our session with Mr. Rayner, his nephew presented him with a lithograph that Mr. Booker T. Rayner did in honor of his uncle's service to the country. And if you'll notice, if you can see it, that the pond there is in the shape of a heart. I also want you to notice Mr. Rayner's jacket that he has on. This was his original issue Army coat. And I asked Mr. Rayner, I said, Mr. Rayner, do you think many people have those coats? And he said, I don't know, I've got mine. And I said, well, if they have them, I'm sure they can't fit in them. So as you can tell, Mr. Rayner has been very healthy over the years. His eyesight is failing, but he was just a joy to talk to. He loved recalling his service years, and it was a very special moment for all of us there. Our next veteran, Mr. Rayner is going to have his hand cast on the wall, in bronze on the wall of oath. We have 4 other veterans who are going to be participating in another art project. There will be 50 columns throughout the park. There will be 2 counties represented on each column. And we had 4 other people to have their hands cast who will have, there will be concrete tiles of their handprints on the particular column. Our first participant in that is Mr. Gordon Luby McCullen. He is a Wayne County native, born on October 14, 1919. He was the son of the late Cora Price and Walter McCullen. He was married to the late Carmi Price McCullen. He has a daughter, Susan, and a son, GL. He has 3 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. He joined the Army in 1940. Mr. McCullen spent his entire Army service responsible for malaria control in the United States and India. After the service, he worked for the Department of Transportation for 34 years. He is a member of Mount Olive Presbyterian Church, a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars and the American Legion. He's been a proud member of that for over 60 years. And this is Mr. McCullen with his daughter Susan and his grandson. Now these people had to sit still in a chair for an hour and a half while their hands were cast, and my hat went off to them because they did an excellent job. And you can see Mr. McCullen has his right hand in a box there. And this is Marcella putting the plaster of Paris down in the box to take the impression. And this is, she's unmolding the box, and that gelatinous substance is what she will take and actually make the mold and put concrete in. Our next person who participated is Mr. James MARCUM. Mr. MARCUM was born in Stone Cold, West Virginia on November 5th, 1918. He was the son of the late Lottie Mae and Leonard MARCUM. His wife June is from West Virginia also. They had two sons, James, or they call him Jimmy, who lives here in Wayne County, and the late Leon Thomas. He served in the United States Army. He was a member of the 601st Medical Clearing Company and worked as a surgical technician. He was part of the Normandy invasion, and the storm that happened to be brewing out at sea at the time of the invasion washed his company 27 miles downshore. So his company had to march those 27 miles back to Omaha Beach. He was in Berlin when the war ended, and he didn't come straight home, but he transported the top brass around, and he told me, he said, I just did whatever they asked me to do. He returned to the United States and was a welder in a factory in Columbus, Ohio. He later transferred into management in the factory. In the early 1990s, the MARCUMs moved to Wayne County to be near their son, and they are members of Faith Free Will Baptist Church. And you can see Marcel preparing the box for his mold. There's plaster, there's like 3 or 4 different layers on that they had to sit through for everything to dry. They had the patience. And this is taking his hand out of the mold, and that's his son Jimmy there with him. And that's the actual mold, and she'll clean that up and pour concrete in that to make the tile. Our next participant is Mr. William BIZZELL. He was born in Wayne County on October 6, 1918. He is the son of the late Lula Parker and Bryant BIZZELL. He was married to the late Burl Davis BIZZELL for 57 years. He has a son, Rob, and has 2 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. He joined the United States Army Air Corps, which is the predecessor of the Air Force, on October 1st, 1941. He served with the 5th Air Corps headquarters. He was stationed in Australia, New Guinea, and Okinawa, as well as stateside. His positions in the service included personnel, transportation officer, and a gunnery training officer. He retired with 41 years of service. Mr. BIZZELL is very proud of the fact that he volunteered for 22 years at the Seymour Johnson Air Force Base Pharmacy and accumulated over 4,000 volunteer hours of service. He now delivers vehicles for Best Used Cars, and he told me he can drive anywhere he wants to drive. He has served as president of the Mount Olive Rotary Club and is a member of First United Methodist Church of Mount Olive. And there's Marcella putting the plaster of Paris on the box. So he looked a little apprehensive. He was really the life of the party. He really told a lot of one-liners, and that's the impression of his hand. Our next participant is Nancy Davis. Nancy was born in Massachusetts, the daughter of Doris and Raymond Monroe. Her husband is Johnny Davis. She has 2 children, Kevin and Carrie, and 2 grandchildren. And the Davises, Mrs. Davis also has 2 stepchildren. Actually has 5. Mrs. Davis joined the United States Navy in 1982 and was a radioman 2nd class. She worked in communications in California, Guam, and Washington State. She has also been a member of the Navy Reserves and served at the Navy Recruiting Command Headquarters in Washington, D.C. After 10 years in the Navy, Mrs. Davis received a medical discharge, and she began working in child development centers on 2 bases. She went back to college, received a degree in social work from Barton College, and after receiving her degree in 2002, she began working for the Services on Aging here in Wayne County, as an information and assistance specialist. She has been a very active member of the Disabled American Veterans Chapter 45 and serves as treasurer. And Mrs. Davis represented our younger veterans and also our female veterans. And this is Mrs. Davis with her husband, Johnny. And this is Mrs. Davis with her hand in the box. We had a little trouble getting her arm out of there, so she got pinched a couple of times, but she was a good sport about it. And she's pulling the mold off. And these were our 4 participants who will have their handprints on the column. And as I said, the park is scheduled to open in Fayetteville on July 4th, 2011. It was a wonderful day for me. I appreciate the opportunity to participate. I learned a lot. We laughed. And this is a wonderful generation, and we should all be proud of them. And I think the support will come from Wayne County for the park.